And now, I think we get into, and particularly on time, I must say, it's not like Swiss standards, so I'm very pleased about the organization so far, and all the speakers have been very organized. Corrado Passera has, I think, an incredible background, especially in the variety of the things he has done. Clearly, Bocconi, the degree in Bocconi. He was also appointed Bocconiano of the Year some years ago. MBA at Wharton, consulting, industry, within industry, several kind of industry, at Cheer first, launching telecom, being at Mondadori first, and then L'Espresso, and then leaving the group to join as a civil servant, I would say, Poste, in the public administration, so from one side of the business, private business, to a kind of more public and public administration kind of business, together close to the administration and to the government. Then back again in banking with Banca Intesa. And then a couple of years ago, or maybe a bit more, called as a minister, and more recently as a politician. So I think few people have this sort of variety in their CVs, and I think we are particularly pleased to have him here. And I may ask you, Corrado, to join me. And if I may, on a personal note, I had the opportunity to work a bit on some occasions together, yes. And I've always been extremely touched by the drive, the commitment, the dedication in all the things you have done.
More than enough.
No. I'm really thinking this, and the level of integrity that and the values that you put in the things you do. So we're extremely pleased to have you here. Corrado will, let's say, have a quick speech, and then I think the main purpose of this is to make it interactive. So, let's say, memorize your key points and feel free to ask questions. And if there are no questions, I will try to stimulate you. So thank you for having you here, and all the best.
Thank you, Riccardo, and thank you for inviting me. I love this university. This has been a very important part of my life, not just a part of my education. It has been part of my father's life, of my son's life. So Bocconi and all the activity around Bocconi have been and are a crucial element in an important element in my life. Riccardo mentioned some steps in my life. I've been lucky. I've been able, or I've been in the position to add different professional lives to my life. And I think it was a very lucky thing. Is it better to focus? Is it better to concentrate? Is it better to specialize? Or is it better to widen your experiences, to diversify, to add different professional lives to your life? There is the possibility to be happy and to build a very satisfactory professional life in both directions. I chose the second option, the widening, the adding, the diversification. Was that a choice? Who knows? Maybe I chose this option because I was not good enough in any specific area, so I decided to specialize in non-specialization. Maybe it was destiny, maybe it was the strong curiosity I have inside myself, who knows. The transition from consulting to business, from business to civil service, from civil service to finance, and then to government, and now to politics, the most difficult transition, believe me, something that was not planned. Actually, nothing was planned in my life, because all these transitions have happened not because of a planning process, but because they happened. Sometimes it was because the mission was accomplished, so it was time to go somewhere else. On other cases, it was a forced decision. I was moved out, so I had to change. Sometimes I felt that the opportunity was unrefusable, or the challenge that was being offered to me was unrefusable. Some of the time, especially the last but one transition, I did it because I thought it was my duty. When I left everything and I joined the government. Riccardo was asking me, but what is the mechanism, what is the decision process when you have to change and start again from scratch? I did it several times, on average every 5th year. And as I said, every time the reason, the rationale was different. The common thread was, I'm open. I have to use in the best possible way my experiences. I would just mention 2 cases because it will not be a speech, as Riccardo was saying. It will be a conversation as far as you want to do it. I will just put some remarks, some points on which we can elaborate all together afterwards. The 2 transitions that have been the most difficult to decide were the 2 transitions from the private world to the public, to the other part of the world, the public, the government, the civil service. The first one was when the government, Mr. Ciampi, that then became also the president of our republic, asked me to leave the business world and fix the post office. He wanted to appoint me postmaster general. And why did I say yes, even if the task was looked almost impossible? Probably because the task looked almost impossible. And because the post office at that time, 98, the post office was the negative metaphor of Italy, was the most concrete stereotype about the fact that Italy, especially in the public world, cannot work. The post office was something that could not be fixed. There were also even proverbs, even idioms about the fact that the post office couldn't work. That was, the Italian post office was the worst in Europe. The European statistical offices avoided to use the Italian standards, to use the Italian results to avoid the European averages to be too low. So it was really the worst piece of the public world. And I said, yes, let's try. And that happened to be one of the most strong and satisfactory, not only professional, but also human experience of my life. We realized that the post office was not inefficient because people in the post office were lazy or dishonest. it simply didn't work because good organizational rules were not applied, because investment were not made, because technology was not available, because leadership was not strong enough to defend the company from many bad external interferences. When people realized, trade unions included, that I wasn't there to close the company or to reduce the role of the company, but I was there to relaunch it, to invest on people, to make this piece of the public authorities an example of the potential that in the public authorities is available. People changed their mood, participated and collaborated in an extraordinary way, in a wonderful way. They worked beyond the 8 hours or the 6 hours at that time without asking for money. They accepted a very strong restructuring plan, but they realized that sacrifices were shared, benefits were there for everybody, and proudness was available for them. They were ashamed of the poor performance of their company. And at the end, they were proud. They became proud about their job. So that choice, leaving everything and become a civil servant, proved to be, for me, quite an experience. And probably the reason, the rationale at the beginning was try something that was perceived and considered impossible. And the second time was something, the second time I moved from business to the public world, was something similar. When, again, the President of the Republic and the almost elected Prime Minister, Professor Monti, asked me to leave one of the best jobs in Europe, probably, and join the government. Our country was in disarray, was really in bad shape. We were running the risk of losing our sovereignty. And so the decision was easy. I couldn't say no. I mean, when you are called by your country and when you are asked to participate in the, not only the relaunching, but really avoiding a major risk for your country, you simply have to say yes. The way I think, I mean, it's not a rule. I mean, everybody can say no, but as for the way I look at the way anybody, each of us should be part of the community, the only possible answer could be yes, and it was a yes. I got the call in the morning, I resigned in the afternoon, and I was at the starting of the government the following day. Was that a satisfactory experience? Yes, because I realized that things can be done also in government, in politics. Was that only a satisfactory experience? Certainly not. It was a frustrating experience because even if things can be done, we did only part of what we should have done and we could have done. So I completed that experience with this mixed set of feelings. Things can be done. We have not done enough. Our country needs much more than that. And that's the reason why, after the end of the government experience, I decided to devote the sabbatical year to the building of a program and of a team that will be announced in the next weeks to relaunch the country. But I will not talk about the future. For sure, this last transition to politics is certainly going to be the hardest one in my life. Last 2 points. Riccardo asked me to just give 2 words on which are the relevant skills if you decide the second option, if you decide to have a wide kind of professional life and not just a specialized and focused one. And then I will say 1 word about leadership. What was most relevant in my training, in my education? Certainly the Bocconi University was important. Certainly the MBA experience was important. Certainly the first 5 years in management consulting was important, because when you are with a good, strong international management consulting company, you have the possibility to get in contact with many different things. So if you're curious enough, you get a lot of stimuli from different sides, and you realize that your life can go in different ways. So these are certainly 3 building blocks. But if I have to say now, which are the elements of my training that are most relevant for what I did at the end and for what I'm doing now, probably I must admit that the secondary grammar school, il liceo classico, was probably the building block in my education. History, philosophy, contamination of different disciplines, contamination of different cultures. That's probably, I was not aware of it. I realized it was very important. It has been very important. Probably the experience, the contact with my grandfather, a medical doctor in a rural area, at the end was the main thing that created this community feeling I have, this social responsibility I feel naturally. Same thing with my father, small entrepreneur, but very much committed to his own community. So I'm mentioning that because education, formal training is very important. But also to my children, I try to give them not only the possibility to see different words, and the Bocconi experience in China for my son has been a key point in his growing, but also these other components, examples, looking at what some other people have been doing, have been able to do. Examples is the main things, the main communication mechanism. But it's just a point I put on the table. Last point is about leadership. Leadership, I mean, there are many different ways to be leaders. There are many different definitions of leadership. If I have to choose one, I choose the one that says that a leader is someone who creates other leaders. At the end, a leader is someone who can attract, motivate, manage strong people, people that have to be better and stronger than the leader himself in their own areas. A leader is someone who diffuses leadership, who empower the organization is in charge of. So at the end, in my experience, this is at the end the best definition. And when I look at so-called leaders, I always look at the people he or she has around him or her, because real leaders, those who make the difference, are certainly leaders with vision, and we can talk about it, who have moral authority. We can talk about that. But at the end, the test, the element that distinguishes the real leaders is the people that the leader has around him or her. Today is even more important than in the past because the kind of complexities we have to manage, both in the business world and in the public world, in the political world especially, is so high that the solo players are even dangerous, certainly are not the best possible leaders. The main challenge today, and it was mentioned by the previous speakers, is to foster a new phase of growth, sustainable growth, not dragged growth like the one we had in some of the last years. Fostering a new phase of sustainable growth means redesign the way we operate, find new areas of growth, change management, a lot of change in the reforms, stimuli, and that's the main task of any government, of any political entity. That's where I'm focusing now my attention, and I'm sure that through our conversation I will get a lot of advices on this particular issue. Because the level of social malaise that is growing in our countries, throughout Europe, but certainly especially in Italy, is such that if we want to prove we are leaders, if we want to prove that we feel social responsibility, we have to foster this new phase of growth, but real growth. And if you want, it will be one of the topics we can discuss together. So the introduction has been even longer than I should have done. And
so I don't know whether there are already any questions. There is one already there. Look, I mean.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nicholas Lee. I'm EMBA 6 from 2009. I'm a New Zealander. I immigrated to Italy in '99, and I saw the transformation you did in the postal service because we had the same experience in New Zealand in the early 1990s. So first of all, I would like to thank you for that because I saw a major transformation. I've been living in Amsterdam for the last 3 years with Philips. And one of the things which has really struck me in the difference between Italy and Holland is exactly the last point that you meant, the sense of social cohesion. That
social?
Cohesion. Yeah, that people are doing things together for the common good. I remember one of the first things that struck me when I came to Treviso was an expression which was "mi non vao combatter," which in dialect translated, I'm not going to battle for the others. So I do it for myself, but not for the community. I see that as one of the major challenges for the Italian nation. If there was one thing that you would wish for, or if you said if we could just solve that, I think we can unblock this nation, what would it be?
The worst mistake I could make is to say that I understood what you said exactly, because I didn't understand many of the things you said. But I got in the word social cohesion and whatever is needed to build also that part of a country grows if the two components, competitiveness and social cohesion, are there at the same time. And social cohesion, social common goods are created if politics addresses this point with the right level of importance. Welfare is certainly part of this element. One point that is often underestimated is the role that non-profit organizations, the so-called third sector, can play in a community, in a society. Something that is really changing in the basic structure of our societies is the fact that the non-for-profit or low-profit organizations are becoming the third leg of the table on which we work. Profit organization, public world, the government, etc. But this third sector is becoming more and more important. And that's the reason why the program I will propose to the country has a very important chapter in this area. We have to create the so-called, not create, foster and reinforce the so-called social companies that are companies that are entrepreneurial company, but with common good kind of goals. We have to develop the so-called impact finance. So finance that is paid through the savings and to the benefits that the organization can create to the company. We have to subdivide part of the welfare services between the public world and the non-for-profit organizations. We have to give dignity to this third sector that is becoming so important. One of the things I'm most proud of has been the creation a few years ago of a bank totally specialized, totally devoted to the third sector world. Today, Banca Prossima, that is the bank I created, has now 60,000 ONGs as customers and provides more than 4 billion worth of credit loans to this world. And so if I understood your question, and in any case it's too late to change the answer, that's some of the things I can say about that. And New Zealand is a great country. I want to mention it because both my children, but there is a, I'm not saying that just for the applause. My two children, the older one, because I have also two very small ones, but the older ones have both spent their last but 1 year at the high school in New Zealand. And for both of them, this has been one of the building blocks in their life.
There is another there, and then over there another one here.
It's Pietro Bianchi. I'm MBA number 7, so I'm a classmate from Nick.
You're number 7?
Number 6, sorry. Is a classmate from Nick. And my question is related to your experience at post office. So how important has been your previous experience in the private sector for your success in the post office, at the post office? And the rationale behind the question is really how many Corrado Passera do we need to improve the public companies in Italy, and if the values which helped you to have the Passes office growing again are available in our public companies as they are today.
So relevance of private business skills in the public world, in the state-owned companies. Very relevant, but the worst mistake one can make in joining the public world is to address their problems only with the eyes of the private business person. Not understanding the rules of the game in that world, public laws, administrative laws, common goods objectives. And different rules have to be understood before judging and before changing everything. Some of the worst failures by people coming from the private world in the public world have been caused by these presumptions that the private is better by definition. That's not necessarily true, but I will come to your question. There are things that can be done only by the public. I keep saying that if the post office at that time were a private company, bankruptcy was sure, because probably we wouldn't have had the time to invest, to plan, to build, and we would have lost for the community, for the country as a whole, an instrument that provides efficiency, but also values that are at least as important, presence of the state in every part of the country, good, low level financial and logistic services to everybody, etc., etc., etc. Having said that has a number of consequences. For example, when you get into a public company, don't kill everybody and start from scratch with people coming from the outside, because there is always a lot of very good people inside, generally not very well used. And so take the best inside and show the others that even in public companies, the best people are properly deployed. The things that I imported from the private world into the public one that proved to be the most effective certainly have been the very high investment on people. We launched a training program, several millions days of training for the people in the company. Have been probably the most relevant things. Changing the minds from process to result, from procedures to quality of service, has needed an enormous amount of effort, but you have to go through that if you want to change the culture of a company, of an organization. Technology, massive investment. The post office couldn't work because there was no network. That for a post office is like saying a bird without the wings. So we became the largest, most developed network in the country in terms of ITC, in terms of terminals, in terms of digital services, etc. So investment on people, investment in innovation, and then what made the difference at the end, but it took time, was introducing meritocracy. If you are good, you are rewarded. If you deliver, you get to levels that were unimaginable for you in the previous world. If you don't, you are put somewhere else and you are given another opportunity, but certainly you are not left where you are, even if you have important friends somewhere. So meritocracy, together with big investments in human capital and in technology, have probably been the main elements I brought from the business world to that organization. At the end, is very much a matter of leadership, because you have to convince people that you will deliver as a leader. You are not only promising meritocracy, but you realize it every single day. You don't say investment in human capital, but you prove it and you do things every single day. So example, leadership through example, through facts, through interim results, not only long-term projects, but also short and medium-term ones. So that's what the second question, I'm sure, because I know many of them, that there are more than enough good, strong, generous people to perform what is needed to change our country. Probably those people are not yet where they should be in terms of position, but people with a combination of competence, that is number one. Courage, because when you want to change or introduce big change, courage makes a difference. Generosity, because sometimes you have to say many difficult no's to difficult people. And the communication skills. So people with this kind of set of skills are available, are many, are not yet put in the right position, but that's what we should all together do in the next years.
There was another one in the back, and then there are three here. Yeah, over there, and then three here.
Hello, I'm Alberto. I'm on campus student. Sorry for my voice. I see in your pattern, public in the sense of exposure, one big gap from when you changed from places where you were actually the boss. Allow me, please, this term. So basically, you went from being a CEO of a bank, post office, CEO of a bank, and then a minister. So a person really with power. And right now, you made the decision to leave this position of power and start again the battle, okay? This is, I think, the most difficult piece of your experience from my perception, which are, yeah, okay, good. So what do you think will be the skills that you acquired during your previous experiences which will actually make the difference? Because I think in this latter part of your experience, you will deal on a very different level with the people that will surround you. Thank you.
You are totally right. And that's why I said that this present transition is going to be the most difficult one in my life. Having said that, when you lead very big companies, both in the public world and in the private world, actually you are the boss, but you cannot lead by yourself in any case. Convincing shareholders, convincing stakeholders, designing bigger structuring plans with trade unions, merging companies or banks, are not just military kind of decisions where there is a boss who says that direction, that way. So in managing big diversified organizations like the one I managed, both in banking and in other areas, the kind of command style was very much building consensus around big and difficult decisions. But you're right. At the end, there is a CEO, and it takes the decision. At the post office was even more what I'm saying, because convincing the parliament, the government, before building the change inside the company, that was very much the combination of a very large number of stakeholders, has been a good exercise. But again, you're right, at the end there was a CEO, and the decision was in his hands. The last experience, the experience in the government, was close to what I have to do now, because in building a law, in proposing a reform. For example, I got the new energy strategy for the company approved by such a large number of people and stakeholders that it was an exercise very similar to what I'm going to do now. Building the new law for innovative startups, and so changing the labor law, the bankruptcy law, the administrative law, the fiscal law, etc., has been a very wide exercise of consensus building. The role of minister, the role of the government, the emergency situation helped in pursuing this kind of big changes, but the exercise was in the direction of what you mentioned, and in the direction of what I will have to do now. How I will build on these experiences, and I will try to build something in the strictly political world. I believe that ideas, programs, proposals, contents are very important. I'm not saying that communication is not, but I'm very much content-oriented, and that's why I will try to build the consensus I will need around strong, clear proposals, technical and value kind of proposals. Then it's a matter of people. It's always a matter of people. It's the strength of the team that makes a difference in the private world, in the public world, and in my opinion, in the political world. Then communication comes, the building of consensus through the media, through the media, let's say. So yes, the challenge is there. How to build something that is not anymore a hierarchical kind of things, but is a collective project. We will do that through civic media. I've done the first step of the consensus building in the last 2 months in a 30-stops trip tour around Italy, because I believe that politics is so far today from real world, from households, from companies. So I decided to revisit the country, but the real country. Schools, tribunals, prisons, companies, research centers, social works, big infrastructure projects, very dangerous criminal situations in the south. And I'll try. I will use all the experiences accumulated in the different worlds to create this political offer that, in my opinion, is missing, but I took the commitment not to talk about my project, my political project in this meeting.
Were other questions? Yeah, I would go from the left there. There is one, and then here in the middle, and then here. Yeah, Fabio also. No, there was a question there.
Good morning, Domenico Fazio, MBAS 13, the Executive MBA, the evening edition, candidate of 2014. In your speech, you talked about sustainable growth. Everybody knows that the main malaise of the European countries is the lack of growth. 2 days ago, we had bad economic data, GDP data that disappointed consensus estimates by a large scale. So don't you think that because of this data, the European Central Bank will be forced to be engaged in a widespread bond buying product? But don't you think that this maneuver is far from creating sustainable growth? Because I think that a sustainable growth could be created just with economic reform in the whole Eurozone. Thank you.
Sustainable growth is the task and the responsibility of the ruling classes everywhere in Europe, but Italy is becoming the real critical country, because in a way or another, the rest of the world, and the rest of Europe too, with very few exceptions, is now in a new phase of growth. Italy is not, because it's not doing what should be done. In the last several years, and I include all the governments, in the last 4 governments, we have been reasonably good in fixing the accounts, in consolidating the fiscal budget, but very little, almost nothing, has been done to trigger a new phase of growth. That's why I'm saying that if we want to create that, and we have to create that, because when you get to 10 million worth of people with real job problems, unemployed, underemployed, inactives, we're talking about 10 million only in this country, you have to do something very big to change the trends, and monetary policies are not at all enough to do that, are a sort of prerequisite, can add something. But if we don't intervene in a major way, both on investments and on consumption, there is no way we change the trend. What is really missing in the P&L development in the last few years is investment. That's why one of the main points I will focus on is a program worth 150 billion euro in terms of investments, infrastructure, R&D, a lot of other public works and private R&D investments that can be funded without without jeopardizing public accounts and without missing all the European criteria, because the money is available, the European structural funds can be used for that, a number of investments can be self-financed. So investment is the main things, and if we don't start with a major plan like 150 billion, we don't change the trend. There is room for putting money in the pockets of the households and in the pockets of the companies without creating any trouble to public accounts. For example, I'm very much in favor of the option we should give households to cash in immediately the TFR. For those who are not Italian, in Italy we have a sort of 1 monthly salary accrued for the end of the job relation with the company you work for. That should be anticipated immediately, because 1 extra monthly payment can make really a difference for a lot of households. I should reward fiscally in a major way those companies that jump in terms of productivity. I would put at least 2 monthly salary free of contribution and taxes for those companies that agree with their trade unions, a major step in terms of productivity, the so-called productivity compensation. And that might mean something in the around of 100 billion euros worth of money in 3 years in the pockets of the families, of the households. Last example, and I have several dozens of them, but we have a problem in our country that has to do with the very past dues of the public authorities. Public authorities pay their commercial debts with months or years of delay. There is a way, and Spain has been a good example of the way these things can be fixed, that might bring in a few months something in the round of 100 billion in the pockets of the companies. So what I'm saying is we have to engage on a number of structural reforms, but we also need a very short-term push, stimulant to the economy, And the monetary policy of the BCE is not enough to create and to provide this stimulus. And I keep saying, not 5, but 500, in the sense that 5 billion budget laws doesn't change anything. We need something in the round of 3, 4, 500 billion euros worth of punch into the economy if we want to change the trend of one of the largest economies in the world. Because let's not forget that Italy is one of the largest economies in the world. 1,500 billion euros worth of an economy cannot be moved through little pinches, but we need a major intervention.
We're here in the middle. Here, there's another question. Where is the mic? And some. I'm going from left to right, so I get there. Otherwise, here and then I'm moving.
Paolo Carloni, I'm MBA 10, maybe one of the oldest present in the room. I was with Gaetano Micciche at that time. My question is regards to your experience in the government with Mario Monti, and is related to the austerity politics, which now the common opinion, mainly in the US, is that there was a big mistake for Europe in general and for Italy as well. 2 years later, now that you are free to express your opinion in that regard, what is your opinion about that?
Very, very openly. I do believe that at the beginning of our government has done a very good job, because when we joined, let's not forget that at the end of 2011, the risk of losing our sovereignty, of really dying in financial terms, was very real. The very good job our government has done in the very first weeks and months has been to create consensus through the government, with the parliament and the social forces, in order to implement, after years and years, a number of reforms that were strong enough to prevent the country from collapsing. The pension reform that was badly needed, some initial fiscal reform in terms of property tax, some first spending review process, have been able, with the total support of the total majority of the parliament and with the support even of trade unions and industrialists, we have been able to prevent the country from collapse and to regain credibility in a very short period of time. So, in that respect, mission accomplished. Then a number of reforms were put on the table, and some of them succeeded. Anti-corruption, reform of the defense system, startup laws, new energy strategy for the country, 50 billion worth of strategic infrastructure projects financed and unblocked, something that was unknown in the, until that time, and a number of other things. So, second phase, reasonably good. What missed, what we didn't do, and that's the reason why also my relation with the government and also with the Prime Minister changed a bit, strongly, was this lack of courage, this lack of boldness also on the development part of it, on the kind of things I was mentioning before, things that we could have done and that we did not have the courage to put on the table because they were maybe perceived as too difficult or critical. We must say that from the summer of 2012, the Parliament entered into election mode. So the possibility we had at the beginning to go through very bold decisions decreased in a significant way. So it was not just our fault not to put the same kind of energy also in the growth development part of our job, the same that we put in the austerity part of it. This responsibility was shared by the government and by the Parliament. But for sure, we lacked the will to manage that we proved to have at the beginning. Austerity, the second question, but the second point I want to make, Europe. Austerity versus growth. I mean, the two things are not incompatible. A number of countries had to put their accounts in order. I mean, there is no way you can leave the accounts, the public accounts of countries like ours to go to nobody knows where, especially if you are part of a common currency. But in any case, it's a matter of we have 2 trillion worth of debt, so we cannot bring it to 3. But, as I said before, there is room for much more investment, both on the domestic side in Italy and at the European level. And we should force. Next semester, we will be the country in charge of the European Union. One of the flags we should raise is convincing Europe to become the champion of a major investment process financed through Eurobonds in the area of education, R&D, common infrastructure, because if we don't foster, if you don't increase the speed of the growth in Europe and we don't change the trend in countries like ours, the weight and the consequences of the social malaise and the social rancor that is growing in Europe will become unmanageable.
There was something here, Fabio, and then here, and then I think over there. Huh? So I think we have another 10 minutes, so let's give it short.
I'm Fabio Tomassini, MBA in 1999. It's quite clear for me the professional path that you had but due to the fact that you introduced yourself as a politician, I really would like to do a question regarding the future. So in your opinion, why it's so difficult to implement the main actions that allow to this country to survive? Compare the experience that you had as a manager, because you mentioned in the past that you were involved in a lot of decisions, but at the end you survive, and at the end you reach the success. But why, as a politician, is it so difficult to implement the main things that it's necessary to do in order to solve the crisis and in general to let the opportunity to this country to fly?
Probably at least 3 different levels of the answer. Let's not mix the lack of political will to do things and the implementation. In some cases, politicians and governments, in the last 3 cases that was the case, do not have the courage to take important decisions. So things are not done because decisions are not taken. But you're mentioning the case probably of decisions that are taken and not become real. There, my experience is a very positive one, because both at the post office, but certainly at the government, I proved that all the implementation acts, implementation decrees, implementation facts can be done. We had 150 decreti, to be done to implement our laws, and before the end of the government, we have done all of them. So it's not true that things cannot be done. Obviously, you have to push a lot, you have to engage yourself, you have to put your face, you have to take also hard positions to get there. Sometimes people tend to say, politicians tend to say, but things cannot be done because the bureaucracy, okay, bureaucracy sometimes behaves, bureaucrats sometimes behave in a stupid way because norms are stupid. And so we have to change norms. So it's not the bureaucracy in itself the problem, but the way we ask bureaucracy to behave. So we have the duty, really the duty to change some of the norms. And my experience at the post office was very clear. We took meters and meters of rules and regulation, and we simply put them in the garbage can, and we started from scratch, because with those kind of rules, no way the letters could be delivered in 24 hours. Having said that, my experience at the government was that people inside the departments, the ministers, need a strong leadership. Because if ministers do not take the responsibility and leave it to the low levels, things are not done. Because if you ask your collaborators, your people in a company to take decisions and to take responsibilities that belong to you, also in the private company, things are not done. And that's the tendency of politicians, professional politicians, not to take any kind of responsibility for kind of competence, for kind of strength, for kind of courage. And so things do not happen. But very often it's a combination of stupid norms, stupid rules that can be changed, and lack of leadership by those who are in charge of the different departments. So, end of the answer. I mean, in 1 year, we proved that things that were waiting since decades could be done. The energy strategy, the startup, the 50 billion worth of projects, the airport plan, the opening of the banking world through the so-called mini bonds. For the first time in our history, we opened the credit industry to the market. Take energy. We liberalized the gas market, something impossible to conceive. We divided ENI and SNAM, something that was inconceivable. We redesigned the incentives to renewables energies and to industries, something that was perceived as impossible. So what I said before, I'm now trying to do what I'm trying to do, is also because I had the evidence that things can be done. And it's a matter of changing the rules, putting some courage, and at the end, leadership.
Okay, so this one, and then one over there.
Fabrizio Tolotti, MBA in 1999. I work for Mondadori Group. And Mondadori. And my question is, what do you think about the role of culture as a key driver for growth and the turnaround of Italy? Also referring to your previous experience in the publishing sector.
Culture and publishing, two different things. In the growth model I'm proposing to the country, the role of not only culture, but the heritage, beni culturali, come si dice, heritage, the cultural goods and the environment goods have a very important role. In the area of the way in Italy we use one of the main assets of this country. Has to be the cultural goods, is so far from what we should do that things can be improved, in my opinion, in a relatively short period of time. I'm not sure I have the English words here, but the fact that in Italy the tutela dei beni culturali and valorizzazione dei beni culturali are separated. At the center, the tutela, and at the regional level, the valorizzazione, is something that paralyzes the uses of them. The fact that we have our main museums, our main cultural packages, let's say, that are part of the public authorities, are not foundations, are not companies, are not organization with their own strength, with their own dignity, both from a legal and from a management point of view, prevents us from using this kind of enormous asset we have. So with very easy reforms that do not cost anything, we could create engines of growth throughout our country that might really contribute to the development of tourism, to the development of craftsmanship, of the development of our GDP. Publishing is another long story, but culture, education, environment, research and development are really the four main engines of the growth model I have in mind for this country.
Okay, thank you. The last one, and I know that I have to cut some. I promise next time, the next keynote speaker will start from this side. So just to counterbalance it, the last question here for Corrado.
Hello, Mr. Passera. I'm Gaetano Intrieri, MBA, executive MBA 11. So I work in aviation. I have just a curiosity to ask you. I work in aviation sector. I think you remember me. And I just we have a curiosity.
Of the aircraft or
no,
managing the service?
In airlines. And so I have a curiosity. 10 or 11 years ago, I met Mr. Bersani, Pierluigi Bersani, and I came back in Alitalia. I was working in Ryanair corporate governance in that period. And he told me that he asked you to manage Alitalia 10 or 11 years ago. That is true? Mr. Bersani asked you this? It's just a curiosity, my curiosity.
I tend to...
And the real question is, you have a lot of experience in different fields of the business. Why you say no in Alitalia?
Because probably I had better opportunities somewhere else, but
I know that you love aviation.
No, but
you have PTL too, You know pilot aircraft.
No, I got just aircraft. All the rest was missing.
Sorry, with this microphone,
no, it's probably my ear, but I...
Yeah. Okay, no, I won't just tell you that I know something of your life and you love the aircraft, You are a pilot.
Let's say I take Alitalia and I say a few words about Alitalia. Whatever you said, I will give an answer. I refused if I were proposed a position in Alitalia, but I certainly committed myself to the fixing of Alitalia. And when the government, at that point was Berlusconi, the Prime Minister, asked me a suggestion about Alitalia after Air France said no, because the previous government tried to sell it to Air France, and at the end Air France said no. I looked into Alitalia and I said, this company cannot survive, full stop. It has to go bankrupt. because when you lose something in the round of 1 billion euro per year, there is no way you can fix a company like that one. So my suggestion that was accepted was to let old Alitalia to go bankrupt. Then I said, from this bankruptcy, maybe we can find private money. At that time it was a state-owned company. We can find 1 billion, 1.5 billion Italian and international money to build around the roots, around the company goodwill and the aircrafts available. We can try to build a viable company. And we tried. We put together 1,200 billion euros. I convinced Air France to be part of this effort. We agreed with the trade unions a major change in the labor contract. We decided to renew, we suggested to the company to renew totally the fleet, and actually Alitalia now I got fleet and nothing else.
Sorry. Now you told that you have felt to renovate the fleet of Alitalia in 2008, you know, with the new Airbus 320. Yes, that was a plan of AP Holding, XR1 company, no? There are 100 orders in Airbus of that kind of aircraft, no? Yeah,
I must admit I didn't understand what you said. So
you were saying
again, if you want, I can elaborate on it.
Sure, you were saying that you.
We suggested to renew the fleet. Yes.
To get innovation.
I suggest.
Yeah.
In any case.
Also because the time you.
No, but
I mean, no. I think. Thank you very much. I think it was also very difficult to understand this last point. We can take it at the break eventually. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I think it has been very appreciated. I was surprised that no stimulation. The question, I think there has been others, so this means that there was a lot of interest.
Thank you very much.
A little sign of your presence here today on the Reunion 14. Thank you again to Corrado for spending the time with us today. Really appreciate it. You have been inspiring, and as I said, if you get out of here during the day of your speech, one thinking, one emotion, one question, one thought that stays with you, this is what we would like to leave with you.
Sure. So you are not sure they got even one?
No,
so
I think they
if you get at least one, so
I'm happy. We are happy if we get at least one. This is very important for us.
Stop it because it's even worse now.
No.
Okay. What I mean, I did my best.
Thank you. Thank you. And for the donation, you have got, for those who have not donated yet, there is in your bag a little piece of paper, nothing to do with him. And there is a desk outside. So thanks for all who have done the donation already. And for those who haven't, thanks a lot for passing by. See you in 20 minutes, 10 to 12, for the next keynote speaker. Thank you, Corrado, again.
The alumni network is one of the main assets of a university, and it's a very important asset also for the alumni themselves. Why? For the university is the main source of information to understand whether or not the university is doing the right things, because the alumni are the product of the university, and their success, their possibility to develop themselves in the real world is a function of the way the university works. So the university should trace and track the development of their alumni in order to understand, in order to improve, in order to make the university more effective in the way it delivers its services. At the same time, the alumni network is an asset, is quite an opportunity for the alumni themselves. The Bocconi Alumni Association is now a network covering the whole world with successful people working in many different parts of the globe, and taking advantage from such a network is something any alumnus should be interested in. So what the university is doing, what the alumni are doing, is something crucial for the future of our university.